You ever hear a six-figure piece of equipment scream itself to death in under half a minute? That sound where steel chews steel, alarms choke, and somewhere deep inside you can almost hear money evaporating? That was the soundtrack to my exit, the day I let a polished MBA discover what happens when you erase the wrong person. My name's Frank Dalton. I'm 56, and for 31 years I kept a stamping and machining plant in northern Indiana alive through sheer stubbornness and muscle memory. People like to say it ran like a Swiss watch. Truth was, it ran like an old field watch that had been dropped, repaired, dropped again, and somehow still told perfect time, if you knew its quirks. That morning I was beside Cell 9, the temperamental one. A 15-year-old CNC unit shaping aluminum transmission housings for GM. On good days it sang. On dry days, humidity under 35%, it sulked. Servo drift crept in, tolerances wandered, and scrap bins filled fast if you didn't intervene. I was tweaking coolant pressure when I heard footsteps I didn't recognize. Sharp, nervous clicks, expensive shoes on concrete. I didn't turn around. You're inside a restricted zone, I said. Unless you're certified for high-pressure hydraulics, you're standing close enough to ruin your week permanently. A pause. Then a voice, smooth and young. Frank Dalton, right? I turned. The man in front of me looked like he'd stepped out of a business school brochure. Early 30s. Tailored suit. Tablet clutched like scripture. I'm Evan Brooks, he said. Director of Operational Transformation. I wiped grease from my hands. Senior Manufacturing Engineer, I corrected. And let me guess, you're here to explain how we should do twice the work with half the people. He smiled thinly. We prefer the term unlocking efficiency. Efficiency. The word tasted like tin. He gestured to his tablet. I've reviewed performance logs. You manually override Cell 9 almost 40% of the time. That's wasted capacity. I stared at him. He saw numbers. I saw a machine patched together through a decade of discontinued firmware, vendor bankruptcies, and undocumented fixes. My overrides weren't inefficiency, they were life support. We've got a leadership meeting in 20 minutes, Evan said. I'll be presenting the modernization roadmap. I'll be there, I replied. Soon as I finish convincing this machine not to eat the next batch of parts. He stepped away carefully, as if hoses might bite him. Watching him go, I felt that familiar pressure in my gut, the kind that comes before a storm. Before heading to the conference room, I stopped at my toolbox. Behind outdated PLC manuals sat a small flash drive. I'd kept it hidden for years. A full ghost image of the plant's control systems, every workaround, every undocumented dependency. I slid it into my pocket. It felt heavier than it should have. The conference room was cold enough to store meat. The veterans were already seated, Miguel from maintenance, Joanne from quality, Pete the floor lead. Faces tight. Evan stood at the head, slides glowing with buzzwords. After 2 weeks of observation, he began, I'm concerned about our reliance on undocumented expertise. He said it like a diagnosis. We have single points of failure, he continued. If Frank retires tomorrow, Cell 9 stops. That's unacceptable risk. Miguel raised a hand. With respect, the sensors don't tell you how seals behave when the weather flips. We do. Evan's smile didn't reach his eyes. That's exactly the problem. We need data, not intuition. Effective immediately, we're auditing roles for redundancy. Silence settled hard. Frank, he said, turning to me. Since your role centers on legacy systems, and we're eliminating those, HR will schedule a transition discussion today. Transition, I echoed. Standard process, he said breezily. We have to ask whether maintaining outdated systems is still cost-effective. I nodded. Calm enough to scare myself. After the meeting, Miguel grabbed my shoulder. This isn't right. He wants modernization, I said softly. Let's show him what that looks like without institutional memory. Back at my terminal, surrounded by yellowed schematics and stained manuals, my hands moved automatically. Files copied, encrypted, archived. I wasn't stealing, just packing my things. An hour later, HR finalized it. Severance that wouldn't last a year. Paperwork full of words like evolution and synergy. Evan compared me to a carburetor in a fuel-injected world. He even shredded my contract renewal in front of me. Digitization, he said proudly. That's when the last ounce of loyalty drained out of me. Security walked me to the parking lot. I sat in my rusted pickup, looking at the plant I'd given half my life to. Then I opened an app on my personal phone, one linked to a diagnostic node I'd buried years earlier in the lighting control system. Access granted. Ghost admin active. I didn't touch anything. Not yet. 2 days later, Miguel called from a burner phone. It started with cell 9, he said. Evan had pushed his cloud-based control migration live. Local loops rerouted. Latency crept in. Milliseconds that meant nothing to finance and everything to machinery. The cuts went sloppy. Arms hesitated. Operators shouted to stop the line. Evan waved them off from his glass perch. Adaptive learning phase, he said. Then one arm moved before another cleared position. Sparks flew. Emergency stop. Silence, the expensive kind. Maintenance found nothing wrong physically. The brain was the issue. No reverts, Evan ordered. Cloud is the future. IT tried to override legacy controls. Error messages blocked them out. Admin rights required. Who's the system architect? Someone asked. The answer hung there. Desperate, Evan ordered safety protocols disabled. My phone buzzed. Thermal limits off. Collision detection bypassed. I stared at the screen. Then I set it down and made lunch. When they restarted the line, it ran beautifully, for 90 seconds. Then a position sensor failed. With safeguards gone, the machine didn't pause. It assumed. The cutter slammed through a hydraulic clamp, shearing bolts, spraying fluid, igniting fire. Alarms screamed. Foam flooded the area. Evan stood frozen. Damage tallied fast. Tens of thousands gone. Production dead. The CEO called. Numbers flatlined. Questions sharp. By Wednesday, IT hadn't slept. Every reboot restored my ghost profile. My architecture healed itself. Frank wrote the bootloader, one tech finally admitted. Without his key, the system protects itself. Evan ordered a full factory reset. An old technician shook his head. That'll wipe 25 years of calibration. Evan whispered, "Do it." From my porch by the lake, I watched error logs stack up. I felt bad. For the machines, for the workers. Not for Evan. Because some systems don't just run on code. They run on people. And when you delete the wrong one, everything else remembers.